Meet ISTQB Prep. Designed for future ISTQB certified testers, ISTQB Prep gives you everything you need to prepare effectively, from realistic exam simulations to AI-driven insights. Practice like it's the real exam. Get timed ISTQB-aligned tests featuring official sample questions so you know exactly what to expect. No more second-guessing. Receive instant feedback with clear explanations, helping you understand why an answer is right or wrong. Stay on track with detailed performance analytics. Pinpoint your strengths, identify areas to improve, and watch your confidence grow. Get access today through GASQ or ISQI, whether as a standalone prep tool or bundled with your ISTQB exam. Study smarter, boost your confidence, pass your exam. Start preparing with ISTQB Prep today.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone tuning in for this session on our ISTQB stream for the A4Q Testing Summit. We have the pleasure to have with us Nishan Portoyan, who is the head of Academia Working Group on ISTQB, and who will be enlightening us about TAE. So, what is TAE about? Nishan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm really looking forward for the next couple of minutes where I will show you what is it actually about TAE and does it really matter? With that, I would like to start with a sentence where you either agree or you disagree. But do not automate test cases. Engineer trust. Now, if you hear that, you think, what's going on with this guy? He's talking about the TAE, the test automation engineer syllabi, but he's saying do not automate tests. Well, who is actually this guy? Hi, everyone. My name is Nishan Portoyan, and I'm an automation engineer since over 18 years. So I got some experience on automating, and I had also a lot of pitfalls where I had a couple of challenges to handle. And for me, what I realized is it's not about automation. It's creating the trust to the business and to the IT by the automation that you're doing. So this will be all about in this talk. I will not go through the syllabi with you because the syllabi you can download by itself. But I want to show you how does it actually apply in your daily life, in your daily business when you are automating. So with that, let's delve in and see what I have prepared for you. Well, when we look at automation, a lot of people think it's very easy, very simple, and there is nothing special to do. You can start automating, you can release a lot of testers because you only need one, maybe none, because everything is automated. Well, not really, because there are a lot of traps. Well, what are the traps that we have? First of all, the challenge that people have is with those continuous development and with all those test cases that you're building and trying to get into your pipelines is producing a lot of pressure to you. So you have more builds, you have more test cases, you have more software to deliver in a shorter time, and you're trying to actually impress the business by telling them you can automate everything and then you don't need to do everything. But in reality, it looks completely different. Well, you start by automating everything. You start working on the test cases. And what actually happens with those test cases? Well, you actually produce a lot of noise, a lot of, well, you could say crap, because you're just going ahead trying to automate everything just to please the business, to tell them now you don't need to automate, to test anything. However, what happens is your test cases are not stable. You're getting flaky results. You're not producing what is relevant. You are getting defects. However, those defects are not related to the functionality, but more because of your test cases that you have built. So on the codes, on the scripts that you have built, and production defects and data issues are actually not solving anything, not being visible at all, because you're just trying to get your test cases running and not making sure that the trust in your software is increasing. Well, with that, we have the third part, the trust, because developers stop then caring about you. They don't want to know what you're doing, what you're testing, because they know whatever you're testing, maybe it's green, maybe it's red, doesn't matter, because the production defects are not being found by those automations. And testers have a lot of issues then to produce value and to show that testing really matters. So with that, having automated tests doesn't mean having reliable automation. Not at all. Well, let's look how the whole material is changing. The whole development life cycle is changing. I mentioned that with the CI/CD pipeline, the speed changes. Yes, but we have the agility. The feedback loops are being kept into minutes and not anymore into hours or days. So you need to make sure that your automations run overnight and that they don't interfere in the whole agile process, but produce value on it. What about DevOps? DevOps, a big name that you will also hear or you already heard in the A4Q Summit, is something that a lot of companies are trying to implement. Well, you're developing, testing, and trying to operate. However, those walls that you had between those parts, the development, the testing, and the operations, are gone. Because with DevOps, everything is trying to work as a whole team approach, trying to move forward faster and more efficient. Well, with DevOps, you have to also implement the CI/CD pipeline. And every commit that you're doing should actually be a possible release. So with other words, you are trying to make sure that the automated test cases are a gatekeeper to show, is the product ready for release, or do we have severe issues that we need to solve? What about APIs and cloud? Well, a lot of applications are going now to cloud, and you're trying now to automate, and it's quite challenging because all the properties and all the elements where you're trying to hook your automation attributes are being more and more challenged. You have issues connecting modern systems which have microservices and containers and different kind of infrastructure to your old system that is still running on-premise. The on-premise test cases are running stable. The cloud, the API test cases are crashing because of the instability of identifying those attributes correctly. Well, what actually matters? What is really the key? Let's see it in two ways. You can be a tool user who's using a tool to automate, or you can be an engineer. It's on you to decide what you like. If you want to take the comfortable, the relaxing way, then I recommend you be a tool user. Why? Because a tool user doesn't engineer. A tool user asks, how do I actually automate? So with other words, they're trying to figure out which buttons do I need to press and how do I actually identify this button? And is this button really relevant for my test case, or can I ignore it and trigger it in another way? Why is a test case failing is something that you ask every single time. You build your test case, you run it, it fails. You fix the issues because some attributes changed, some IDs changed, or the elements that you try to use are not stable enough. You rerun it, it works, you rerun it again, it fails. And you're just in this loop of trying to fix the test cases instead of focusing on the application. And then there is this myth saying, let's automate everything. Because we have automation, why don't we actually automate everything? And we get rid of all the issues that we have with timing, with money, with effort. Well, that's the part on tool usage. And maybe you disagree because you have other experience. Maybe it could be because you already learned a bit of engineering by yourself and you're trying to combine it with a specific tool. So an engineer doesn't ask how, it asks why. Should I automate everything? And is it really relevant to automate this functionality? Do I really need to fix those automation test cases? In which level do I want to execute those test cases? Is it only a unit test that you want to automate? Or is it an end-to-end test case where you're trying to simulate a user interaction? And what about the data? What about the test data that you need? Do you really have a strategy on it? Are you just copying productive data and using those? Or is it not allowed because of the domain where you're working on? And what about the data that you're trying to just figure out and doing with dummy data, and the test cases work, but are the issues maybe test data related? And what do I actually want to show at the end of the tests? Do I want to show that my test cases are all green and everything is okay? Or do I want to show that the biggest risk of the application is actually covered and I'm giving trust to the IT, to the business, that the product that we want to ship has a quality that we rely on? And what about scaling? Is it possible to get faster because we automate it? Is it possible to speed up the process, to give real-time feedback after something has been deployed, so that we can focus on, is it really what the customer is asking for? So those are the challenges. And the CTAL-TAE, the Test Automation Engineer Syllabi, builds on engineering judgment, not on tooling. Well, let's look at what you learn if you take the automation engineer training and look at the syllabi. If you look at the whole automation process, you can actually divide it into 4 specific phases. You have the phase before everything starts automating. And this is the biggest key point that divides an engineer from a tool user. because an engineer will ask, why do I actually need to automate? And if I'm giving a purpose on why I should automate, then the question is, well, is the application testable? Is the application already ready to test or not? So that's the part on the preparation where I look at the system and check if it is testable or not. And this is the part where a lot of people miss out. Then we have the building phase, where you start structuring and making sure that the code quality that you're building is having a specific level on quality. Well, and then when you build everything, what do? Yes, you put it into your development pipeline. So you implement it into your CI/CD, and you put quality gates in to make sure that after a specific phase, there is a check that defines, are we continuing or are we stopping here? And with that, the decision comes. Because when you get instant reporting after the automation, you can now decide, do you want to continue? Do you need to have a look and analyze why something is going on? And what is after the testing phase, after you report it? Most of the time, you want to build trust. You want to show that the verifications that you did really matters, that you can rely on the output, and that it's improving by time. So the test cases are being run faster, you're making them more stable, and you're making sure that everything works as it is. Well, we talked now about those 4 phases. Let's dive a little bit deeper in each one of them. Let's look at the purpose. The purpose is the area where most people fail. Why? Because they like to skip this part. They don't want to think of, do we really need to test? Because if I don't automate, I lose my job. I want to make sure that I can keep my job, so I don't ask myself, do I really need to automate or not? But if you would ask yourself, is it really relevant to test this because it's changing each single release? Then the question comes up, okay, what actually do I want to test? So without a clear objective, the team starts building test cases to test cases to test cases, and it expands and expands, and it gets more and more fragile. The suite that you're building is not anymore providing confidence and trust, but it's actually producing more headache. When you're having a clear objective, everyone understands why you're doing it. You're giving it a base on decisions, because now it's easier to decide, do we really need to test this or not? Do we want to contribute in extending the automations? Or is it a possibility that we can actually measure quality with those test cases? Well, what do I really want to say on this purpose part? Well, basically, don't skip it, because it's the crucial part of the whole process. If you don't focus on this part, the biggest effect that you could actually produce gets lost. Okay, let's say we did the purpose, we are ready. Now we move on to the next level, the testability first. If you ask yourself, is the application testable? Is it really ready to automate? Am I able to build a stable test cases on this platform or not? Then the quality changes, your aspect changes, and you think on, how do I actually want to stabilize the testing? How do I want to make sure that what I am actually producing is valuable? Well, you start now collaborating. You start now working with the developer closer. You're telling them look, I'm not able to test this application because I don't see any useful properties that I can stably build my test cases. I don't have IDs. I don't have classes. I have no idea how to test it unless I do some picture recognition, which is the most unstable part that you could use to test, to build a test automation. Once you ask yourself, is the application testable? Then you go ahead and look at the architect, at the architectural part of those test cases. What kind of test scripts do you want to build? Should you really build a test case on all the languages that you're seeing on the application? Do you want to keep the minimal part, which actually shows if the application is stable or not? What are the business logics that you want to include in those test cases? And do I need any specific libraries that I want to include in my automations? Those are the questions that you ask in the phase of the architectural part. Most of the people, they even skip this part. They just run in, they start building the test cases, and by time they think of, oh, it could be good if we have those reusable and more maintainable than before. Well, what happens then? Well, then we start building the test cases. We start building test case 27, and you start testing 27, and you're not understanding really what is happening because you're only seeing the number, but you're not giving a valuable name. Is it clear what you're actually testing with your test case? Is the name of the test case showing what you are actually testing? What about the test data that you're using? Do you have test data that you need to reset every single time? And after you prepared those and they're all used, you need to reset it? Or can you create the test data on the fly by the automated test cases? And how many test cases do you actually need for a login screen? Do I really need to test every single user? Or is there a method how I can make it more stable and useful for me? Well, once you build a test case and you know that it's useful, that it is running a specific pattern, business process that you have defined, and it is something that you can reuse every single time, and you can make sure that the elements that you have built can be used over and over again by reducing the maintenance. Then you can go ahead and look at your CI/CD pipeline. Now you can say, the test cases are so stable, now I want to implement it into the CI/CD pipeline. But how do I actually do this? What are the key elements that I need to make sure that I'm aware of? And what are the issues if a test case fails? Are we just running test cases and it's failing every single time? Do we actually know why the test cases are failing? And if you have implemented the test cases into a CI/CD pipeline, how is the process once those pipelines run? Is it that you're running the pipeline, it fails, and now your whole team stops doing their work? They look at the pipeline and start figuring out where the issue is. Is it a productive issue? Is it a data issue? Is it an environmental issue? Is it a flaky test cases? And no one can continue working until we fix this CI/CD pipeline? Or is it one person or a small team that is focusing on those pipelines and making sure that the test cases that are failing have a reason why they are failing? Not because the test cases are wrong, not because the test data is wrong, but because there is effectively a production issue that is causing the test case to fail, and it is something that to be fixed, that the customer doesn't see it and doesn't experience it. So you're bringing the value on this automation. Once you do that, now you think of, okay, I run the test case. What do I really want to show in my reports? Is it that I want to show, hey, we have 500 test cases that we ran, and from those 500 test cases, 400 actually failed. But no worry, it failed because the test cases had an issue. Nothing serious on the business side. You can continue deploying, all good, we will fix it. Or is it from those 500 test cases, 10 failed, and those 10 fails are actually reasonable because the application is not working as expected? Did we do something in the test case? Did the functionality change? Did the requirements change? Or did something got wrongly programmed in the script? What is the issue? So you start analyzing it and you make sure that the quality of your test cases are increasing. And then you start analyzing your test automation. You start reviewing what kind of tool you used. Is the quality as expected? Are we still on track? Do we need to change something? And if an audit happens, and mainly if you work in a department where regulations are very important, then you need to show evidence. You need to prove that a functionality has been tested. So be prepared with your automation that you already have the evidence that you have tested everything. And you know that if somebody comes and says, show me the results on your test cases from this and this release, that you can say, sure, here, you see all the automated test cases. It ran, it passed, everything is fine from our side, but there was one part that we didn't see, but it was not part of the automation. It's part that we are now including to make sure that the quality will continue in the next release. With that, you're now seeing that all those issues that you have are basically challenged and addressed in this training. So the automation engineer Syllabus covers all these issues. And you see here on the slide which issues that you have are being covered in which chapters. So you see that if you have issues with pipeline noise, then you go to chapter 5. If you are using the wrong tooling, then you have a specific area in the syllabi that explains you how to handle this. So with that, what really makes the CTAL-TAE so valuable, and why you should actually consider looking at it? Because you're now changing your focus from tools to strategies, from trying to figure out how to automate a button to, is it really bringing the value to my application, to my development? And I'm not talking about anything about AI, because that's something completely different that will also have a big part in the whole automation part. Because we know how the developers are working now. We know how the testers are working now. And it's bringing some challenges that will be addressed soon in different areas. But one thing that you need to consider is what kind of an automation engineer do I want to be? Do I want to be an automation engineer who knows how to use a tool? Or do I want to be an automation engineer who knows the core foundation of automation and understands how the strategies work and how it helps me in my part of the daily business that I'm doing and bringing value to the quality assurance department and developers. So you have all those areas. Have a look on the syllabi. I highly recommend you to look at, because for me, if I would have had this material at the start of my career as test automation engineer, it would have saved a lot of headache that I had to figure out how to do something and how to fix it based on building it on a stable way and a stable structure. So if you want to be ahead of your employees, if you want to have a little bit more speed, look at the syllabi and start learning how to be an engineer and not a tool user.
Perfect. Thank you, Nishan. Thank you for this presentation. And most importantly, the checklist of questions that you've given to all the test automation engineers in our audience. I think those checklist of questions is very valuable, because when we don't answer those questions, there is a term that I use quite often for the test automation engineer, is the spiral of despair. So we then fall into the spiral of despair without just checklist of questions. So very important for all our TAEs out there. Please make sure that you answer these questions before jumping into automation. Talking to our audience, we have some questions now from you guys that we would like our expert in automation to answer. So yes, the first one. We already have CI/CD pipelines and automated tests. What would CTAL-TAE actually change for us? CTAL-TAE, Certified Tester Advanced Level, Test Automation Engineering, actually change for us?
That's a good question. Let me think about it. Well, one thing is having a pipeline that is running, and you have your test case in this pipeline and you're just running it through and making sure that the test cases are just running. But the question that you should ask yourself, are you actually producing a trustworthy quality gate so that people are able to trust on your output on those test cases and showing if the system is running as expected or not? And let me ask it also another way. If your pipeline fails, if your test cases fail, how is it that it works? I mentioned that maybe your whole team gets stuck and everyone is trying to focus on fixing this pipeline again. Or do you have some strategy, some structure, process that defines if something fails, what to do? And in the TAE, you have a specific chapter. If I'm not mistaken, it's chapter 5 and 6, where they talk specifically on the CI/CD pipeline and how to handle it and how to make sure that you have a framework that is built on trust and not just on content delivering out and saying, it's good, let's go, or it's bad, let's go. I hope it's that answers the question.
It does. So it's not a yes/no question there. So yeah, thank you for this insight, Nishan. We'll take another question. AI is now writing test codes automatically, right? Does CTAL-TAE still matter, or is it becoming obsolete?
That's a very good one. I didn't want to go into the AI topic because AI is hyped everywhere. But let's look at it as a test automation engineer. Yes, AI is now writing the test cases. How good is the test cases that the AI is writing? Is it stable? Is it running as you're expecting? Well, the biggest challenge that you have as a test automation engineer is actually that the issues that you have are coming much faster than before. So you need to react faster and make sure that it's being fixed. And if you don't understand the purpose of your automation, if you don't understand the architectural and the verification strategy that you have, you will have huge issues. And the AI will rule everything, but the quality will get weaker and weaker. And the trust in testing will be lost. So I highly recommend to learn the test automation engineering skills, because with that, even now with the AI, you will have a stable foundation on handling the issues that the AI will produce.
Perfect. So the syllabus, the certification is still highly valuable even in the AI era where AI is writing code.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Nishan. We'll take a last question. How do you convince management to invest time in testability improvements when they just want more test coverage? Okay, so that's a bit about the profitability, the return on investment, and so on. Okay, Nishan. So how will you answer that?
Well, you basically answered it, because if your test cases are unstable, what kind of value and what kind of cost are you producing? So if you go ahead and say, does quality really matter? And if quality matters, then we need to invest into maintaining our automations so that we don't lose time and money on those pipelines, on those executions, but focus more time and more money than building the trust on your customers and on your application. So what is it? Do you want to invest time in fixing test cases, or do you want to invest time and money to get more revenue and more stable systems? I think that could help the manager to understand why it matters.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Nishan. So it's all about finding the right balance between then the return on investment and the amount of time that you invest really in the testing, in the testability improvement for the TAE.
Yeah.
Test automation framework. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that was all that we had in terms of question that we could take within the session. So thank you, Nishan. Thank you for sharing your insight about test automation engineering and bringing your experience as well and sharing your experience as well with our audience. And our audience, again, a reminder for subscribing to our channel on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and also, again, we have our TikTok channel now. So if you are there on that platform, you can also follow us there, and you will have updates from us. So thank you for tuning in, and stay with us because we have another interesting session coming up on the A4Q Testing Summit. So thank you, Nishan. I'll see you around then. Bye.
Pleasure. See you.
Meet ISTQB Prep. Designed for future ISTQB certified testers, ISTQB Prep gives you everything you need to prepare effectively, from realistic exam simulations to AI-driven insights. Practice like it's the real exam. Get timed ISTQB-aligned tests featuring official sample questions so you know exactly what to expect. No more second guessing. Receive instant feedback with clear explanations, helping you understand why an answer is right or wrong. Stay on track with detailed performance analytics. Pinpoint your strengths, identify areas to improve, and watch your confidence grow. Get access today through GASQ or ISQI, whether as a standalone prep tool or bundled with your ISTQB exam. Study smarter, boost your confidence, pass your exam. Start preparing with ISTQB Prep today.